I think a lot of people are getting the basics of this stuff wrong. So this was in Austin recently. A lot of you have heard about it. Apparently the guy that died was a libertarian. I don't know if that's true. I don't know what kind of credentials were there. I don't have a dog in this race. I don't have a dog in the fight. Let me just leave it at that. It's tragic regardless. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Now let's figure out what happened. So the car is going to come from over here on the right. He's going to be in the right turn lane. This just happened in Austin. Yep. He turned right on a red light, I think, at the time. So I think the light's going to turn red before this happens. Turning right on red is legal in Texas. Not that the law makes any difference to this situation. So you've got a bunch of people walking in the street. Why are they walking in the street instead of the sidewalk? To be disruptive. For the purpose of impeding traffic. And I can say this because we've done marches like this. And when there's a road with a lot of people on it, do we march in the street to be disruptive? No. We walk as much on the sidewalk as the space allows. Now, there's been times where the cops have, without us asking, blocked, like pulled up and stopped people so that we can cross intersections and things like that. We didn't ask them to do that. We would have handled it ourselves without them. But that's the same kind of stuff I'm talking about. If a car drove up and was trying to get past us, I can guarantee you that we would have gotten out of the way. Why? Because we don't have the right to control people's travel. We don't have the right to control other free and equal people's travel. That is not a right that you get just by virtue of being in a large group of humans. I'm telling you that from experience. From experience and from an ethical understanding of the situation. So the car's going to come from the right here. He's going to turn right. These people are just traipsing their ass across the road. The light has been green, so these people would have been able to cross. Weren't these people all not in the way? Light turns red. This way turns green. Here's the car right here. Pulled up. He's going to turn right. And when he gets into the people, he's going to stop and honk. Now, a lot of the reports of what we just witnessed were saying absurd bullshit like he accelerated into a crowd of people. He drove into the crowd of people. Anybody that's saying that is specifically crafting their language for the purposes of a motive, of taking a side, of exposing their bias and trying to get you to think that things happened in a way that they want you to get them to think. This guy did not drive into a crowd of people. That implies that he just like mowed into a bunch of people. It's not at all what happened. He turned right. There were a lot of people there. He didn't run them over and keep on going. We didn't see his car bounce over some speed bumps. We didn't see anybody under his car after this is over. And in fact, he didn't actually run anybody over. He stopped and he honked. Oh, my head's in the way. Shit. Sorry, guys. I'll start that over. Wasn't paying attention. I apologize. Thanks for letting me know, Shelly. Let's back this up again. Now, I don't actually know, like, is this a BLM rally? Are these commies? None of that matters for the ethical evaluation of the situation. So, he drove where the people weren't, specifically. There was a hole in the people, right here. Right there. He threaded the needle through the people. He's trying to go about his day. He's trying to drive where cars drive, while these people walk where cars drive instead of where people walk. And honked. And the honk wasn't in that video. I apologize. If somebody wants to link me the other video that has audio, I'll play it. But the next thing that happens is a bunch of people surround him. A guy with a gun approaches, a rifle on his chest approaches the car. This is the guy that died. And the driver fires 5 rounds at the guy with the rifle on his chest, killing the guy with the rifle on his chest, and then drove away. And as he was driving away, somebody else in the crowd fired 3 shots at him. That is the most accurate, most latest account of what specifically happened that I can really confirm, or that are from at least some credible or not terribly biased sources. Now, everything I'm about to say, I'm going to put a big if statement on. If my account or if my understanding of the facts of the situation are inaccurate, fine. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not going to get butthurt if I'm wrong, because I'm not here to like apply an interpretation on these people specifically. I'm here to get better at applying a libertarian principle to conflict situations. And every time I do this, people get butthurt because they've taken a side and they have a dog in the fight. I'm sorry, dude, if you're going to get butthurt, you can do your thing. I don't want anything to do with that. If you want to debate libertarian principle and libertarian ethics with me, that I'm interested in. That's useful because this teaches us how to react and how to better behave in the world and to handle conflict situations. So enough of that. So the quintessential libertarian question in any situation like this is who initiated force? Who was the first aggressor in the situation? Don't start none, won't be none. Well, then the question has to be who started it? Did the guy driving his car where cars are usually driving start the situation? Come on. Did the people blocking the car's ability to travel where he needed to travel or wanted to travel start the situation? Of course they did. Now, in any protest that we've ever been a part of, when we do it, car wants to get through, you let them through. You don't have the right to make them stop. No one does. That would be immoral. That would be a violation of the non-aggression principle to control the peaceful travel of other people. If you don't believe in walls, you can't believe in micro temporary walls in the middle of streets. You have to be consistent in your principles. Don't block people's travel. He wanted to get through. He stopped. He honked. Rather than get out of the way, what did people do? They surrounded his car. That's an escalation. Now, in self-defense, and I'm going to describe Texas self-defense law, not because it's an appeal to the authority of Texas deadly force statute, but because Texas deadly force statute is a pretty common law understanding of how most jurisdictions, most judicial systems see conflict and escalation in deadly force situations. Systems that would certainly exist in a free society with dispute resolution organizations and things like that. This is standard understanding. Texas law says something like the totality of the situation is taken into account. And that's very specific language that's told to the jury because you can't just write magic words on a piece of paper that will tell you exactly what to look for to make an ethical determination, or in the case of a jury, a guilty verdict or whatever. These situations don't work like that. But as part of the totality of the situation, you take into account all kinds of stuff. Differential size between the attacker and the victim. Was the shooter a 5-foot-tall woman that and the attacker was a 6'6" bodybuilder? So, I mean, technically, the bodybuilder was unarmed, but obviously there's a power disparity there, a size disparity there. Jason, I see that you have joined.
Yes.
Welcome.
Howdy.
You joined for the worst part. Welcome.
What's going on?
Yeah, this is the part, if anybody's going to disagree with me, this is where they're going to do it. So this might be the interesting part. Wow, crap, where was I? Okay, so totality of the situation. We're talking about deadly force statute in Texas, what constitutes a threat, or what allows you to, or what elevates your ability to use deadly force in self-defense, right? So if it's you and you're an equal-sized guy on the other side and you guys are about to punch each other and you're about to get into a fight, if a guy threatens to punch you and he's the same size and it's just him and whatever, then you can't pull out your gun and blow him away because he didn't have a deadly weapon. He wasn't threatening you with deadly force. The most you could respond with would be like punching him back or, karate moves or whatever, right? And again, I'm only talking about like Texas deadly force. I told the audience just a minute ago, but I'm only talking about the laws just because it's a good example of what common understandings of dispute resolution and judicial systems would be even in a free society. This is not like special Texas stuff. This is not statist stuff. This is common understandings of self-defense situations. So another one is that, so there's size There is weapons. So do they have brass knuckles? Do they have a bat? Do they have a gun? Do they have a knife? Or are they unarmed? Another one is how big you are. Are you disabled? Do you have an injury that makes you particularly unable to defend yourself? Another one is how many attackers there are. So if you are surrounded by 5 unarmed people in Texas, you would probably be okay to use a weapon, a gun, in self-defense. Because taking into account the totality of the situation, you're not going to be able to successfully defend yourself from 5 attackers or whatever. Which is where we get to in this protest type of situation. So if you're surrounded in a street in your car, you are in a situation where they have escalated the threat to you and have sort of unlocked your justification for higher levels of, I can hide you if you want for now. There we go. Tell me, like, wave or something if you want to come back in.
Sure.
I'm just going to rant for a while, so I understand you not wanting to just sit there and stare at the screen. So you have sort of unlocked the self-defense options available to the person when you gang up on somebody, even disarmed. The guy couldn't really retreat. He was surrounded. The most he could have done was like drove over a bunch of people. And the police also said that they were pounding on his car. So that in and of itself is a NAP violation. You don't get to hit other people's cars. So you don't get to block people's travel. You don't get to hit their cars. Whether or not you're in a protest, that literally doesn't matter. So he had a sort of a menu of self-defense options available to him. One was driving, which would have involved running people over, which is deadly force. The other one was sitting there and doing nothing, which is dangerous, also dumb, also you're not required to submit yourself to a dangerous situation by any libertarian ethic. You have a right to defend yourself and to not be trapped, to not be imprisoned, de facto abducted. And you also have a guy with a rifle in his chest walking up to the door of your car. Now, a lot of people have argued endlessly about whether or not he pointed his gun at the driver. I'm telling you that the ethics of the situation were decided long before the first shot was fired, long before the guy would have even pointed his gun at the car. The ethics of the situation were decided the moment the crowd blocked the person's ability to travel. And then rather than get out of the way, they escalated by surrounding him. Ethics of the situation, done. My evaluation is complete. We're done here. Everything else we can just talk about as sort of like condiments to the main course. You walk up to a guy's window with a rifle. Possessing openly a weapon, in and of itself, would not normally be considered an escalation. I open carry every day of my life. However, I also understand that every action I take while I'm open carrying, listen guys, this is my life. I live it every day of my life. When I'm out in public, I live this. Every action I take, every expression on my face, every intonation of my voice, every interaction I have with people, if the amount I raise my voice, all of this is amplified by about 10 times. If I get angry in public while open carrying, rightfully angry, let's say I get ripped off at a store, and I raise my voice a little bit, having the weapon openly displayed, in their eyes, amplifies everything I do. Now I'm screaming and not just yelling. Now I'm scary and threatening instead of just an upset customer. I'm not saying that this affects the law or whatever. I'm just letting you know this is how humans work. This is how humans feel threatened. This is how the circuitry in your brain works. It escalates the situation. It escalates the threat. So now you have a guy walking up in battle rattle with a rifle in his chest, angled down, whatever, towards your car. Again, this is serious shit. You've got a guy basically surrounded and imprisoned. He's got very few options to respond. Sitting there would be dumb and unsafe and unwise and not justified. And you have a guy walking up to your car with a gun. In every gun class that I've ever taken, and I've taken about 9, because every time one of my friends goes and does their gun class or whatever, I take the class with them because I always learn something new. And this is a topic you can never learn enough about. Learning how to defend yourself with guns in crisis moments is a really difficult thing because you can never plan for everything. And so the most you can do is plan for as much as you can possibly manage to plan for. And so I've learned a lot over taking these classes repeatedly. One of the things I've learned is that you never draw down on somebody without, unless you're prepared to shoot them. Because drawing down on somebody escalates the threat of the situation to where that person might shoot back, or would certainly fear for their life enough to shoot back, whether or not they're the aggressor or the bad guy or not. If you're going to point your gun at somebody, you need to be prepared to end that person or to destroy that thing. That's the common maxim with guns. Don't point your gun at anything you're not ready and willing and accepting of destroying. So anybody that says he could have just pointed the gun at the guy and told him to get back and go away. Another guy said he could have fired his gun in the air instead of at the guy. These people are people that know nothing about gun self-defense. They have no training, they have no experience, and they don't think through these situations when they make these claims. One of the worst things he could have done in this, he would have probably been safer if he'd have floored it and run all those people over and then had that guy probably try and shoot at him as he was driving off for running people over. He would have probably been safer doing that than if he had fired his gun in the air. That would have been really, really dumb. Here's why. Because it justifies anyone around him with a gun shooting him because he has, initiated the gunfight. He has brought the gun to the fight, and rather than shooting at the threat, justified or not, again, we're assuming a neutral situation even for this thought experiment. Even if it were a neutral situation, if you're going to point your gun and if you're going to fire it, you need to make sure that you're firing it at what the threat is to end that threat. Because what's the guy with the rifle right next to your window going to do when you point a gun and start shooting it? Do you think he's going to just kind of run away? No, he's probably going to shoot you. And he's probably going to get the first shot on you. And getting the first shot is the important shot. First shot, important shot. That's another thing that you get taught. So it would have been exceedingly dumb to try and use deadly force to de-escalate a situation. That's another important thing. I'm not teaching a self-defense class here, people. I'm just trying to give you points that I've learned. You don't de-escalate situations with deadly force, by threatening deadly force. It's an escalation, not a de-escalation. There's no way in which it's not like you can shoot the ground at somebody's feet and de-escalate a situation where the attacker has a gun. No, they're just going to shoot you back to stop you from shooting because they don't know if you're just going to fire in the air to warm your gun up and then shoot them. They don't know. And you can understand that, right? It's absolutely absurd and dumb to say that this guy should have shot into the air. So if you've got a guy surrounded and trapped and you walk up to his car with a rifle, there's already been multiple problems with the ethics of this situation leading up to it. Walking up to a car in that situation with a rifle, really not very smart. Just not. If anything, the smart thing, what you do when you want to de-escalate a situation is you don't walk up to a car with your hands, on the grip of your rifle. You walk up to the car like this. Hey, everything's okay here, man. We're going to let you through. Guys, get back, get back, get back. Everybody get back, let him through, let him through. And you're saying this loudly so he can hear you. Get back, everybody, get back, let him through. This is what you do if you're not interested in obstructing. But you know what you also don't do if you're not interested in obstructing? You don't march in the middle of the street and obstruct. It's obvious. The motives are obvious. You don't march in the street if you don't want to obstruct. Because there's places for you to march where you don't obstruct.